Welcome back to opinionsarefree.com, and if you never left, seriously, you need to get a life, all right? Anyways, let's talk about overpopulation if we can. I recall an episode of the All in the Family from the 70s, I guess it was, and Mike and Gloria, the couple, they were telling Archie and Edith that they would never be grandparents because they weren't going to have grandkids. And when asked why, they said, well, because we don't want to bring our kids into a world where they're facing overpopulation, loss of resources, pollution, and all of those concerns that were really rampant in the 70s. And they're alive now, but it was a much more noticeable argument back then. Now, Edith, in her own sweet way, kind of convinced them otherwise, or at least made her case as to why they should still have kids. But let's fast forward now. The world is much better off than it was in the 70s, believe it or not. The water is much cleaner overall. There's more arable land that was reclaimed. Crop yields are much, much better than they were. And not just because of GMO, for those who like that stuff. Some people just don't like that stuff, and I don't like that stuff. But crop yields in general are much better due to efficiencies, and there are fewer people in poverty now than 50 years ago, although there's some areas that are still facing tremendous hardships. But a lot of those hardships are caused by conflict, constant wars and whatnot, and the need for migration, when obviously if half of the population of a country is migrating, then they can't put in crops and grow sufficient food for their people. But the idea of overpopulation, again, that's been hammered down into our heads for hundreds of years, or maybe even thousands of years. And if you want to go back to the Greek philosophers, well, let's go back 50 years, at least that long, where we're constantly given this narrative that the world is going to run out of commodities, run out of water, run out of arable land, and none of this really is true right now. So what is the problem here? Is it because that whole narrative was never corrected to reflect reality? Is it because perhaps we're not really getting the full story on what's happening out there in terms of food production, water conditions? Although I think things are much better off than they were. Even just the ability to reclimate fresh water supplies and clean those up has improved dramatically. Or is it really a long-term business ideal? If you control resources, you control the population. I'm going out on a limb with that one. Now, I wonder if it would be better then, instead of smacking each other over the head for a piece of land or a resource, if we would, beat our swords into plowshares and work harder to do things like desalinate seawater. Once that's done, you have an inexhaustible supply of fresh water for irrigation, for commercial, for industry, for, to make life better for everybody. But if we do head down the road towards overpopulation and the inability to feed the people that we have on this planet, is it because that was the way it had to be, the outcome? Or is it because we're just really stupid as a population and as a race? What do you see happening? I don't know. Do you really think that we're facing a problem with overpopulation? Or do you see it more as a mistaken belief that it was just never corrected? Opinionsarefree.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. Bye.